Hello everyone, it's me Clayton. I just finished watching the 12-episode anime series Romantic Killer. Now, when it comes to the rom-com genre in anime, there certainly are some, even in this season, that do a lot of the tropes very well, others not so much, and some that try to subvert them for all they're worth. And with this series, it tries to generally do the latter. And while the first episode might make some people think that this series is going to be more preachy than actually funny, some excellent animation, great characters, and a surprisingly emotional final arc actually make the series more enjoyable than I thought it would be. But let's get to the story, shall we? The story focuses on Anzu, who's a girl who loves three things in life: chocolate, video games, and her cat. And romance is basically the last thing that's on her mind. That is until a wizard named Riri shows up in her life and says that in order to combat Japan's lowering birth rate, she's taking away her three greatest desires until she can find true romance with one of the hot guys around her, which includes the socially awkward Kazuki, the childhood friend Junta, and the rich boy Hijiri. But that's all I'll say about the story. This basically does sound like a pretty typical reverse harem setup, with Riri occasionally showing up to add some chaos and comic relief, but even though the first episode basically has Shinzo Abe's uh, fingerprints all over it, that's kind of just a way to get the plot into motion to begin with. As when the plot is in motion, it actually gets to what a rom-com should focus on the most: the relationship between the characters. And usually I do find certain reverse harem protagonists a little too submissive or a little too bland for me to get into, but Anzu is nothing like that. Anzu's allowed to be loud and and quirky. She's allowed to basically be as involved with the storylines as the guys she's with. She's able to have her own quirks, strengths, and weaknesses, likes and dislikes. She feels like a fully fleshed out character who just wants to have her chocolate, her cat, and her games again. And honestly, as a fan of all three of those things, I can relate to her a lot. It helps that her vocal performance, and done in Japanese by Rie Takahashi, is done very well, making all of her movements and all of her scenes really funny, along with the show's great animation that actually enhances the comedy at every chance it gets. It helps that the guys she's with are really fun too. Natsuki Hanae plays Hijiri, and I think his voice works, even though his voice works really well for shonen protagonists like Tanjiro, it also works for a enjoyably arrogant rich kid like Hijiri. Kazuki's pretty funny. I mean, Kazuki's funny at times, but he also genuinely has a lot of emotional moments for that last arc that deals with a stalker of all things. And the show actually treats that sort of idea very seriously. It doesn't matter that the stalker's a woman in this case. She's treated as a psycho the way a guy would, which I almost never see nowadays in a lot of rom-coms, whether American or Japanese. And Junta is a really supportive childhood friend too, so the characters all seem likable, and the animation happens to enhance the comedy quite a bit. And Riri is basically the most annoying character in a rom-com or any anime series I've seen since Cube from Madoka Magica. But then again, Riri's supposed to be annoying, and the actress who portrays her, Mikako Komatsu, actively takes pride in making Anzu's life a living hell, especially when Ri gets to dress up as a girl or a guy on occasion just to annoy her even more. But you also see that Riri gains some genuine respect for Anzu and even cares for her in her own way, even when she's the one who put her in this crazy situation to begin with. That's the thing. The first episode might convince you that this series will be a complete waste of time, but it actually gets more and more interesting the further you go, to the point where in the last arc I actually got to care for Anzu, Riri, Kazuki, Junta, Hijiri, and all the other characters. Granted, there are some things that ultimately don't get resolved in this season, and given what the source material ended up as, it's unlikely that they will end up resolved at all. And there are a few characters who do feel like one-dimensional archetypes, but I'm surprised at how much I enjoyed a trashy rom-com like this that felt like it would just be another low-budget Netflix throwaway show. So that's why I'm going to give Romantic Killer an 8 out of 10. See you next time.